So welcome everybody. Thanks for carving out some time on your Monday. Today, so last time we talked about just the COVID changes or how COVID's affected recruiting. Today I want to just give you more of a how to do the research to find schools, like pretty much how to start the process, but then answer any questions that you might have at the end, like if it's about your particular kind of recruiting class, because I'll try to cover everything from freshman all the way up to like junior, senior. Okay. And even 8th grade, honestly, the researching schools and figuring out what you want is something you can start doing. You can start doing right away. It's going to be a process that just keeps changing. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And then if you have questions, you can type them in the chat or write them down. And then at the end, I'll make sure to answer those for you. So share. Play. So what I want to, in the beginning, I'll go over some of the differences between the divisions, what to expect, some of the similarities. I'll show you like a college comparison chart that you can use in the earlier phase, and then how it'll change, as you get, become a sophomore or a junior, and now you're really trying to figure out what the perfect fit is for you. We'll talk about kind of identifying your strengths as a player so that as you get into conversations with coaches, you have an idea of what's going to be a good fit for you from the soccer side as well. I'll give you some bits about highlight videos, and then a little to-do list, what you can do during the winter right now, and then kind of what you can start to think about doing in the spring. So, and then at the end, we'll have a couple questions. So one, I want to start out with just by really reiterating to everybody, this is a cool quote someone sent me. If you play D1, D2, D3, you're a stud. If you play NAIA or JUCO, you're a stud. Only 7% of high school athletes become college athletes. So it really doesn't matter what level you're at. You should just be really proud of yourself and really grateful that you worked hard your entire youth career, that you get to play, a couple more years, and for most people, those last few years of college soccer, that's it. So you should be really proud if you can keep playing anywhere. And I will say that hopefully at the end of all this, you'll kind of also realize that there's a lot of similarities between all the divisions. So it's not like you're getting anything less. But at the same time, there's the level of play. I hope that as you kind of watch games on your own, you'll see that there's a lot of blur, right? 1 is not always better than 2. D2 is not always better than 3. There's a lot of overlap. So if you get the chance to play, you should do it. You should be very proud of yourself. So I'll get into just a couple of, those do come up. So this is on the NCAA website. And reason I like this, it just gives you a breakdown of like the mission statements of why do we have the different divisions, right? Division 1, they're bigger. They're definitely going to be funded really well. They have athletic scholarships to give you. It is very, very competitive. And at the very, very top, you're going to have schools that have national team type players on there, players that play there and then go on to continue their careers. So, Division 1 is very high level. And I want to look on here, should tell you the number of programs. I don't have that. But I want you to see just kind of the breakdown between how many student athletes you have at each one. Because if you're going to solely focus on D1 and start there, you're really missing out on a big, big chunk of college programs across the country. Division 2 looks to strike a better balance between your kind of athletic and academic life. So I would say some are going to be just as competitive as a lot of the Division 1 programs. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to see that it's a little bit of a step down in terms of they want you to be able to do both, right? Your academic rigor as well as your athletics. Division 3, I would say they're definitely more driven towards the academic side. So if you talk things like, studying abroad or more rigorous majors. Now, not to say that you can't, be bio pre-med at a Division 1 school. You can do it. But our expectations are going to be a lot higher because soccer is going to be the entire year and a bigger part of your week versus D2 and then D3. So I like this just because it just has what I really want you to see is the number of programs or number of student athletes within each division. So I would encourage you guys, wherever you do your research, like you should have a healthy mix of Division 1, 2, and 3 schools, okay, at least to start. And then as you do research, you can start to cross a few off. Division 1 and 2 have scholarships. So for men's soccer, Division 1 has 9.9 and Division 2 has 9. And then the average scholarship amounts I put in parentheses. So 14 grand for Division 1, 5,500 for 2. Women's soccer, they have 14 scholarships on the women's side, and Division 2 has 9.9. So if you look at that, the other takeaway is those rosters are 20 to 30 people, sometimes more. So you got to understand, if you're given a quarter of a scholarship or a half, like that's pretty good. The full ride is, they don't give many of those out. So, I just want to get everyone's kind of mind set the right way, where if you're thinking, hey, a D1 scholarship is going to pave the way and pay for it all, not many people get that. So, really with that in mind, does that mean, hey, maybe now I start looking at, other schools where soccer can cover half and then I can cover the other half. Like those are pretty good deals. So just so you know that the scholarship numbers per division. And then going to the next one, here we go. And then here's a breakdown. I put this together just to really help you with the soccer side, okay? So what does your fall look like? What does your winter and spring look like per division? And you can spend a little more time looking at this, but again, I wanted to give you a clear picture of, Division 1 weekly hours, 20. Division 2, 18 to 20. Division 3, I'd say 12 to 14. Strength training, they're all going to do it, right? Everybody's going to have it. Some have their designated strength coach for the one soccer program, and some have maybe that strength coach takes care of all the women's programs, right? And then others, maybe that one strength coach for all men and women. So you're going to have different degrees, but you're still going to do your strength training. You're going to have the same number of games. The winter time, it'll look different. So Division 1 and 2, 8 hours per week, 4 with the ball, 4 without. And Division 3, it's just captain led. So they do their own thing. They lift, they play futsal, and it's more of a team culture piece. Strength training, they're still doing it, all schools. Okay, so spring is where you'll see a big difference between the divisions. 20 hours a week for Division 1 and 2. Okay, they're still doing their strength training. They each get 5 dates of competition. So they kind of have a mini season. And then D3 looks vastly different there, where we get 16 dates, 30 hours, 2 games. And that would be 1 outside competition and then likely an alumni game. And that's about it. So D3 is going to be easier in the spring. And I've kind of put the study abroad piece on there because that's usually a pretty big topic. If that's something you really, really want to do and it's important to you, you really need to think about that when you're doing a lot of your research. I put no's. You just got to talk to the coaches in the programs, because I know some will let you, some will not. This is just a general. If you're going to play at a higher division, probably going to have to be there for all of your spring season. Whereas D3, my days at McAllister and now St. Kate's, if you lose a player or two because they're gone all of spring for a study abroad program, that's okay, right? That's a D3, that's okay. So we're going to do a few dates that you should be putting on your calendar so you have in mind, okay? So June 15th of your sophomore year is when coaches are allowed to talk to you. So if you email a coach right now, your freshman or in that sophomore year, the only reply you're going to get is, here's my camp information. So it's really hard. It's good to know the rules so you don't get offended when that's all you get as a reply. That is it. They cannot tell you anything more, right? So and they've been pretty strict, a little more strict, especially on the women's side. Is they're trying to give players more time to do research and not feel, really pressured to make decisions at such a young age. So you'll start to see things push back a little bit. So you can research all the schools and you can visit on your own. You just can't have like a soccer visit until June 15th after your sophomore year. They can talk to you. And then the visit, August 1st, before your junior year, you can actually go on an official visit. You can do unofficial visits, and I would recommend it. If you want to just go walk the campus with your family or contact admissions and go do a visit and research the school, you can totally do that. You just can't involve the soccer coaches. And I think if you're doing the research phase, you definitely need to do that, because before you start getting the coaches involved, it's nice to know, do I like the school? Do I like the location? Could I see myself here? And then put them on your list. Another, obviously, the April 15th deadline. So if you fall into a category where you should be doing visits or communication would be okay, it's going to be on hold until April 15th, at least for Division One. But they can email, text, and call you. So hopefully this kind of helps you understand what some of the rules are. Now sometimes you can work with your club coaches to help get ideas. Like, they may not be able to tell them much, but they may say, hey, come June 15th, I really want to talk to that player. And that does happen at times. So use your club coaches to help to see if there's any interest, maybe before some of these dates, if you really need to know. And D3, all forms of communication and visits are allowed to take place at any time. So this is one I would say really important. You got to research the school first, right? I made a comment earlier that for most people, like, your 4 years of college soccer, that's kind of where it ends. And that's okay. You want to make sure you're at a school where you're going to get a really good education, right? That you're happy being at. It's the right fit for you in terms of size. Do you want a big school? Do you want a small school? Like, is it affordable? Is it something you're going to walk away from with a ton of debt or none? These are all things that are really important to research, because, what you don't want is for you to be at the wrong place. Because what if soccer doesn't happen? What if you pick up an injury and you're done, right? Or, gosh, you get there and you realize you aren't going to make it there. You're at that school. So now you either look for another one, right? Or what I would just recommend is start by looking at schools that are really going to make you happy, and then look at the soccer side, regardless of division. And then at that point, you have a good, healthy list that, you're going to enjoy it. So if the conversations start going well with those coaches, good, I've done my research. I should be happy at this school. With that said, freshman, sophomore, you may not know what you want, and that's okay. But you got to start doing the research. What fields are you interested in? If you look at small schools, they might not have all of the majors, right? So like the U is going to have just about everything, but some of your small schools, like let's say a St. Thomas or a Hamlin, they might have their specialty majors. So really look at, if it's nursing, who are the best nursing schools or the small ones that have it? If it's engineering, it's a really small list, especially in the Midwest, right? So there's a handful of schools that you should be looking at. So kind of get ideas of what you want to study, and then start figuring out what schools have those majors. If you're looking at smaller schools, you're going to have to start being picky. Most of the big schools are going to have all of them, so you might be okay there. Okay. Once you do this type of research, then really start looking at that soccer side. Okay. So that's one of my biggest pieces of advice. This is a really cool chart that I think you should start with. Okay. I pre-filled some of it out, but this can be 20 schools. It can be 10 schools. And if you're younger in the high school ages, freshman, sophomore, you should have a long list. That's okay to have a top 20. And what it's going to do is it's going to help you organize your thoughts and to figure out, what is it that I really want? So put the schools down, put the division down, take some notes on the location. Okay. And what majors do you like there? Okay. Again, yours could look a lot bigger than this, and it should. This is just an example of how I would organize my list. And then as I go through, I'm gonna start filling out all these boxes. What does it really cost? And when you do cost, do tuition, room, and board. And when you do scholarships, it can be academic scholarships. It can also be athletic scholarships. So those might be multiple columns. But in the beginning, just get an idea. Are they within my price point or not? If you don't know what their scholarship package is, like let's just say, for example, I know, okay, St. Kate's, I know we list ours in tiers, but I know like at MAC, they aren't listed. Just call the admissions office. They will tell you what is the average scholarship package that you give. You could call the coach and get an answer, and that's fine. I think you use the admissions office as a good resource, because those counselors, they will help you. And then you can start filling out your bracket. You might just have to give them some info like, well, I have a 3.9 and I plan on staying up there. I took a practice ACT and I've been about here. What kind of packages can I approximate? and I'm just doing my research, and they'll happily help you. And then you can get an idea of what some of these schools cost and what you can keep on your list, because you're gonna have to talk to your family about it, and what you should probably take off your list. Another bit of advice: private schools, when you look at them right away, they look very expensive. Please look at the scholarship packages, because they give a ton of money. So you're not going to pay that full price tag. And they usually have it on their website, kind of here are the tiers. I think a lot of them even have a minimum where, as long as you're above, a 3, you're going to get, 10, 15,000, right? Like a 3.6 is going to get you a good $25,000, $30,000 package at some schools. So do your research. Don't just write them off too quickly. That'd be one piece of advice there. Okay. And then start with the pros and cons. What do you like initially? What do you not like? And you can do a lot of it online. Do your research online, do 3D tours. I know a lot of schools have them now. This is good for a freshman, sophomore. Okay. As you get into your junior year, now you're doing visits. Well, you're going to have to add a couple columns now, right? Because these schools, you've decided they're affordable, they're where I want to be, they have my majors. Okay, good. You've gone from a list of 30 to 15, and now you're going to do some visits. And that list is probably going to start to go down. And now you're going to get down to a list of 5 to 10, and you're going to have to start really researching the soccer side. And now you want to have these notes. When I visited, what was the team like? What was the team culture like? Were they friendly? Do I like these people? What was the coach like? Can I see myself playing for this coach? I watched a practice. He seemed pretty nice. He motivates his team well, or she. And okay, take those notes, because those are important. If study abroad is important to you, make it a column, and then make sure you ask that question. If you want a cool team travel experience, ask those questions. Do you guys ever do those cool international trips that, I see universities talk about on social media? Some of them do. And if that's important to you, you should ask those questions and then take those notes. I would encourage you to put a personal one on the side, and you got to really look at, is it a place I'd play? If it fits every single criteria, everything, and there's a chance I might not play, but I'd be really happy there, and I'm going to have an opportunity to see what that first year is like, then take it, right? If that's something that you're okay with, then take it. But at least you've done all of your research and you're comfortable with that. If not, if playing is super important to you, I would take that column and maybe slide it over to the left a little bit more, so you can rank these. Like, what, it's important to me, so I'm going to move it to the left next to remaining cost, and I really need to play. So, and that's okay. And then kind of adjust your list based on where you're more likely to play. Now, that might mean a different conference, a different division. You might take a little sacrifice on, maybe the location's not as cool, right? It's out of the cities, but you know what? I get to play. That's fine. If that's important to you, then make the notes. That way, every time you reflect on your list, at least all your thoughts are on paper. If you have a change of heart that maybe it's just not, maybe I did enough research and I realized I cannot be a nurse because I just don't like the sight of blood. All right, well, you're going to have to take a lot of those schools off the list and then resort it. But I think if you do a grid, it's really going to help, because then later when parents ask hey, how's your college search going? It doesn't cause anxiety. Like, I don't know. I got 50 schools swirling in my mind. I don't know anything about them yet. So I would encourage you, start with the pros, cons, and then as you get older, it's becoming more specific. Okay. I'll send you this at the end, so you have an idea of how to make your own. The strengths as a player. So you've researched schools, you've researched soccer programs, you're going to start meeting coaches and talking to them. It's a really good idea to have your strengths in this is who I am as a player. This is what I'm good at. Here's what I bring to a program, because you're going to have that conversation. It's a pretty common question. And one thing you'll want to do is, I guess one good way is, as you cut film, and you'll get many opportunities, this year or next year, what are the things that you keep seeing, that you keep seeing that you do well? Like, as you cut film, you'll start to realize, I'm actually pretty good at this, and that. Maybe this other thing I thought I was good at, I'm not. I think it's good to really focus and say, here's what I bring to a program. And the reason I say that is, when you get to a school, you might really like that school, and maybe you start picking up on things that they say about, hey, the way I want center mids to play is this way, and it just doesn't fit who you are as a player. Like those are things that you want to have sorted out. Because if you want to play, you want to make sure you fit their style, right? So knowing what you're good at as a center mid or as an outside back needs to fit with how that coach wants to play. And if you have a good idea of who you are as a player and what you're looking for, those conversations are going to go a lot smoother, right? So this is something you can start thinking about now at any time. And let's say you're freshman, sophomore, and you really want to play at a certain school and they play a certain way. Okay, maybe start thinking about how you can adjust your style of play to really fit, because like the way they play, because that's really where you want to be. Okay, so identifying your strengths is really important. This one I'll cover pretty quick. I guess I have this on there because this is the way I break it down. Qualities that I like out of players, and just because you don't fit the mold doesn't necessarily mean it's not an option, right? You got to make sure you have the conversations with the coaches. Like, here are the things that, I think I do well. Tell me what's important to you for your center mids. And I would tell you, here are the things that I like. Now, if you might be really good at some of the secondary ones, and that's okay. There's room for you in that system. If not, at least you have an idea of what do you need to get better at in order to fit that coach's system, if that's really where you want to be. Okay. Highlight video. This is actually a funny one. Very, very true. I saw this on Twitter once. Stages of watching a video, watch about 20 seconds. If it's good, full screen. If the recruit seems good, you keep watching. If the music is cool, I'll keep watching a little bit. But I would say if you're going to make a video, you put your best clips in the very, very beginning, right? They have to grab the attention of the coach, and then they'll keep watching. So and I would keep them short, 2 to 3 minutes max, right? You just want it to be like a highlight for a really cool movie. And I watch that and decide I need to learn more. I need to contact this player so that I can learn a little bit more. So it doesn't need to tell the whole story. It just needs to show some of your best moments. And if you know what you do well, it'd be really easy to put 2 minutes together. I receive and turn well. I dribble at the back line well. I have a really good shot. And I'm really good at, finishing in the air. So just pull those clips, and then there's your highlight. Okay. 2 to 3 minutes max is a good piece of advice for that first one. And then high angle, really good quality. One way, if you really want to do this, you can have your own YouTube channel. You can host them there. Otherwise, keep all the moments. With Trace, it's really nice. You can tag all your moments and keep them there. And then you can change stuff and then send updates. It could be highlights of a game, of a tournament, or it could be really specific to, like, let's say a coach says, hey, I like this about you, but I need to see more moments. 1v1 out wide. You want to be a wide striker for us. I need to know that you can do this well. Okay, so then go through and pull those moments and then send that. Okay. To-do list. So wrapping it up here towards the end here. In the winter, well, we have plenty of time to kind of, at home, you can get a lot of this stuff done on your own. Identify your player strengths. Okay, we talked about it last week. You can work with your coaches on this. You can really, as you cut film, it'll start to stand out. What is it that you do well? Research schools. If I had to say, I would say build a top 20 list. This link, you should be able to click this link when I send it to you. It takes you to a website where the NCAA site, and you can filter throughout the country, what schools, what division, what location. So if you just don't know what to look for, this is a great place to start. I'm going to share it with you. New share, and this one. Here we go. So this is a cool tool. You can click that link, and then over here, just click what divisions do you want to look at. Let's say just division. Well, let's just leave them all, okay? And then how about you can pick the state. What do we have here in Minnesota? Uncheck them. This is one way that you can start your search. And then I should be able to zoom in here. It'll highlight every single school, and it'll tell you, come on, And then you can start picking and choosing. You know what? I didn't know those schools were in Duluth as options. I'm going to research them, see if I want to keep them on my list or not. If you don't like those, then just pick a different state. Wisconsin. Here we go. You can sort by public or private. And there you go. So I have this set to Minnesota and Wisconsin. And I'll be honest, there were some schools on here that even when I looked, it's like, oh, I didn't even think about that conference. Like that would not have stood out to me if you asked me to kind of jot down a list by memory. So this is a really good way. The next thing I'd suggest is you find a school you like, look at that conference, Midwest Conference, and then go look them up. Who are the other schools in that conference? Or you can go to the left and just include that conference. Who are those schools? So this is one way, if you're kind of really early in the stages, that's going to help give you a list of schools to think about and then see what you can find from there. Okay. Let's go back. Okay. How about no share? Okay. Are we back to me now? Yeah. So I'm having some screen sharing problems, but I'll get it sorted right now. Okay. That is about all I had. The last slide was literally going to just be questions. While I pull it up, if you guys have any questions in the group chat, go for it. Or if you want to unmute and ask, now is a good time. While you do that, I'm going to pull up my keynote one more time and just put that last slide up for you guys. Okay. There you go. Screen share. Okay, there we go. Top 20 list, clip your own game film. You have time right now. Now's a good time to do that. Spring, summer is where you want to start putting together highlight videos. It could be a game. It could be a showcase weekend. Okay, you should visit campuses. Even if it isn't an official visit, you should go walk the campus with your family or set up a visit with an admissions counselor. If we go to showcase events and you get there early, that's a great day to go do that. Just contact the admissions office or stay a day late. And that's a good opportunity for you to go and visit. Starting your list of college must-haves, those are the topics at the top. So let's say if you're just one of those players like, I must play, that's fine. That's a must-have. So then as you research schools, if there's not a good chance of you playing, then I would not have them on the list. Or I know some players are like, it must be 100 miles away from home. That's okay. There's a must-have. That distance piece is important to you. So start figuring out what you want. Majors, that's another important must-have. And then I have one question: difference between public and private colleges. I guess one of the biggest differences is obviously where they get some of their funding. So like public schools are going to get a lot from the state. So one thing that I've noticed is a lot of the public ones, they are cheaper, but I feel like they don't give as much money. And I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking of, like some of your schools here. The MIAC is a lot of private schools, so the price tags right away seem a lot higher. But I want to say the average, one statistic was 80% of student athletes get some sort of scholarship money. And some schools give up to I want to say we're up to like 35,000 in scholarship money. So they give a lot. And I know some state schools, they're cheaper, maybe 15,000, but they don't have scholarships that they give as an institution because they are state funded. So I hope that makes sense. I know, Joe, if you have anything to add to that, or did I?
No, I think I think one of the things is that state schools, in terms of how much money they can give, are very, I don't want to say they're restricted, but like you have to meet certain requirements. If you don't meet this requirement to qualify for this scholarship or this financial aid package, then you don't get it. Whereas a private school, they can do whatever they want, pretty much. So like I went to a state school, my wife went to a private school, and like when she got her financial aid package, it was not quite what her family was ready for. And they're like, yeah, it's a little bit expensive. We're like about $8,000 away from really making it work. And they were like, oh, well, you just qualified for some random name grant. And lo and behold, it was exactly the amount of money she needed. So if you're a good student who the soccer program really wants and you fit in academically with the school and socially with the school, they have a lot more flexibility at that level to do that now. That's in the past. I don't know with COVID and some of the financial impacts it's had on schools, whether that's the case. My older daughter got into a private and a public school, and this was back about 12 years ago when there was a really bad turn in the economy and a lot of schools couldn't give away as much money. So when she went to the private school, they said the scholarship offer she got there was like considerably less than what it normally was, like 30 to 40% less than it normally would have been during better financial times. So that's something to consider. The other thing to consider is the types of schools. So if you're looking at a Division III school and you want to go to a state school, you're going to be hard pressed to find. Like, I don't think in Minnesota there are any state Division III schools. They're all private. So you're going to see those higher price tags. If you go to Wisconsin, there are a ton of state Division III schools. California, a lot of Division III state schools. New York, there are some, but so it's going to depend a lot on the state that you're in. I would say the majority of states, the Division III schools tend to be private schools, but there are states that are that it's not like that. So like I said, Wisconsin is one for sure. New York is another one for sure. California is another one for sure. Those states still will have private Division III schools, but they'll have a lot more public Division III schools than most other states. So that's another thing to consider, is that if you go Division II, it's a mix of private and public. Like the best Division II women's program in the country is Grand Valley. They've won numerous national championships. It's Grand Valley State University, so it's a state school. On the men's side, Messiah is probably one of the best, if not the best, Division III men's program in the country, and that is a private school. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a factor as well. So, yeah, so you just got to factor in that into the equation as well. If you're looking for a Division II or Division III experience, the type of school that will be more readily available will be impacted by that.
I would put both on the list. They're going to have their differences. You just got to get on campus and check them out. I did notice some of the D3, if you look at the private schools, they're usually a little bit smaller. So if you want that smaller school, 15-to-1 ratio in the classroom, you might find more of that in the private schools. But again, you just gotta get out there and check them out. Someone did ask how soon to start the process. If I did the 2 spreadsheets. I think if you don't really know like exactly what you want, like, it's okay. You should still start doing some of the research and really say, okay, I think freshman you can start. You just got to think about, maybe it's location. Do I want to be close? What are the schools that are close here? What would I like? I'm going to look at some big campuses, and then as you do that research, put some on the list, or, don't include some, but start to get an idea of what you want and like, what are your must-haves? Do you want to be in the cities, or do you want to be like, is it okay if you're completely outside of it and kind of the college is its own little bubble? You can start doing that research now. The reason I recommend doing that is you don't want to move through the process and all of a sudden, they want a commitment and you're just not sure what you want yet, right? You want to have some of this ironed out. Like, what am I hoping to study? What kind of big campus, small campus? Do I want to leave home? Do I want to stay close to home? Have some of that stuff ironed out now. I hope that answered your question. So yes, now as you become a sophomore and a junior, your must-haves become more clear. Maybe now I'm really looking at, maybe at that point it's majors, or at that point it's, maybe it's more of the soccer stuff. Am I going to play there or not? So, or do I like the coach and the culture? Because you won't know any of that now, and you shouldn't. You don't need to know it now, but you do want to get an idea of what kind of school you're going to like. And by at least starting, you'll start to figure out what things are important to you and what isn't. If there's any more, I'll cover one other thing here that I've noticed. Because of COVID, it's hard to get out and even see games at the college level. A lot of colleges are putting their stuff up on YouTube channels, or they're opening up their their links on their website so you can watch their games. If you want to kind of take a peek at what that level's like, just go to YouTube and look up those schools and watch some of their games. If I bet you if you emailed a coach that doesn't have it up and asked, they're going to give you the link. They're going to give you the opportunity to watch something. I think right now is a good time while you research the school, check out a game and take some notes for yourself. Could I play at this level? Is it a style that I like? Is it competitive? And YouTube or the school's website is going to have something. Cool. So I hope that helps get you guys off to a start. If there's any specific questions that you have, you can always reach out to any one of us. Here's all of our contact information, email. It's my cell number. You can shoot me a text with a quick question as well, and I'd be more than happy to get you that answer right away. If I don't know it, we'll find it for you.
Very good. Jesse, thanks. It's great information. Yeah, we'll get that out to everybody so you guys can have that. And then again, if anybody have any questions, Jesse, Joe, Casey, your coach also can be a first attribute to help you if you have some other questions, and then we can assist. So good. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of the day.